Hello, welcome to another edition of the VOD Weekly News Recap. I am Haddijatou Njie. Good evening. Now let's look at the headlines. Former Health Promotion Director tells media to keep working with Ministry of Health. The Chinese Embassy donates disaster relief funds and supplies of $570,000 to KMC. November 11 nationwide protests planned annulled. REC registers new political party, PAP. GRA, WATAF discuss role on lawmakers in revenue mobilization. NASA rocket transports first ever Zimbabwean and Ugandan satellite into space. Caught others striking Kenyan Airways pilots back to work. Senegalese striker Sadio Mane suffers injury. South African president criticized international donors at COP27. At least 64 children killed in UK military Afghan operation. India shocked as men sentenced to death for rape free. Norway princess quits royal duties for alternative medicine. Now let's look at the news in details. Haddijatou Njie, former Director of Health Promotion and Education, Ministry of Health, on Wednesday urged the Gambian media to continue working closely with the Ministry of Health to get information required for their work. He made the remarks while delivering an emotional farewell address before the media, staff of the Ministry of Health, and well-wishers at the Central Medical Store Complex in Kotu. Njie further urged the media to continue nurturing and the existing spirit of peace and unity between them and the Ministry of Health, and reach out to the new director the ministry would appoint anytime the need arises. The former Director of Health Promotion and Education called on the media to support the next Director of Health Promotion in the interest of the Gambian. Speaking on behalf of the journalist, Mafuji Sise, President of the Health Journalism Association, thanked Mr. Njie for playing a vital role in uplifting their career over the past years. The President of the Health Journalists Association called on the incoming director to follow the footsteps of his predecessor by working closely with the media house. Mas Juve, a staff of the Directorate of Health Promotion and the Ministry of Health, thanked Mr. Njie for his endless support during his days as director. The Chinese ambassador, His Excellency Liu Jin, on Monday, 7th November, donated disaster relief funds and supplies of $570,000 with 40 sewing machines to the mayor of the Kanifing Municipal Council, Talib Ahmad Bensouda, at the Chinese embassy. This came following the mayor of KMC's call for the municipal flood victims, which happened 31st June, causing a massive flood that had badly affected over 14,000 households and 100,000 people in the municipal council. Talib Bensouda, in expressing his gratitude, stated that the Chinese embassy did a great gesture by supporting the flood victims, skilled trade, and young people who are into self-help and looking for economic activities that would enhance their livelihood.
Unprecedented amounts, especially around, was it June 31st? June 31st. So based on preliminary studies we did, we have 14,000 homes, households affected. So if you look at our average household size of about 5 people per household, we're talking maybe 100,000 plus people adversely affected by it. Many people lost a lot of valuables. We developed the statistics. If I remember, about, I think, 4,000 households. I sent it to Mr. Zhu, but they lost about food items, others lost bedding materials, others lost furniture, and of course replacing these items very difficult for many.
The Chinese embassy is open to all the Canadian friends from different walks of life. The Gambia and China are good friends and reliable partners. We trust each other, help each other, support each other, and respect each other. They're saying that friend in need is friend indeed. So today I'm very happy to present some sewing machine and a sum of cash donation to Canifing municipality. I hope that this donation will be helpful for your efforts of relief and rehabilitation after the flood, to overcome all those difficulties caused by the flood. I'm sure that the municipality of Canifing can do it, can be successful. Yeah.
And we'd like to thank His Excellency, the Ambassador, for inviting us here to receive $570,000 in support of flood victims in the Canifing municipality, and also 40 sewing machines to support skills trade and young people who are trying to do self-help and look for economic activities that would enhance their livelihoods. We really appreciate this kind gesture, and we'd like to say that the Chinese embassy is the first foreign body to respond to our call for aid. And they have always been there to support the Canifing municipality. And of course, they are always there to see that the relationship between the people of Gambia and the people of China is very strong, and that there's growth. I was just talking to His Excellency about the many similarities and the many things we have seen that we believe will help us to grow as a country and as a municipality. And we would definitely also love to see how we can partner at the city level with other cities in China to bring the mutual development of our people.
In his remark, the Chinese ambassador expressed his delight receiving the mayor and his team, stating that the embassy is open to all, noting that the Gambia and China are good friends and reliable partners, with trust and confidence amongst them. The November 11 peaceful protest, initially planned by the Coalition of Progressive Gambians, has been cancelled prior to numerous constructive dialogues between the Gambian government and the Coalition of Progressive Gambians, with assurances to meeting their demands. This development was unfolded in a press conference organized by the Supreme Islamic Council as a major stakeholder in the maintenance of national peace and stability, making the fifth roundtable in engaging both the Coalition Progressive Gambian and the Gambian government through effective dialogue since October. Held on Wednesday at the Supreme Islamic Council in Canifing, both parties agreed to postpone the already planned protest while further engaging the Gambian government through its relevant authorities to fulfilling their demands, which include corruption, unemployment, and cost of living, amongst others. In a joint press statement on the intended November 11 peaceful demonstration, it was stated through concession that the Gambian government has assured that it's open and willing to dialogue with the Coalition of Progressive Gambians and the Supreme Islamic Council, and Peace Network will continue to mediate between the Coalition Progressive Gambians and the Gambian government.
Min ma beta jang ka folle mi yalon ko sita pour ka Gambia la nyatuta jibe e kambe tammin na yembe na wala fola janne bare bi janne o kumo be na sila nak be Supreme Islamic Council president tula ayna ay molbe jay ay konton ay welcome inshallah min keta Sheikh Isa Fode Dabo falyatafaddal mashkuran majura
mi atinna en kijol fara ay en kijo fara kote ke birinka foko countrywide peaceful demonstration akono fanutam fe man comfortable nataje ko ngamira ko nyum molla sula fengol min yalo ye wolle fo ikumata bake bara manke ko demonstration o dammal sa jarano sila doli bijela se jarano minna wolomu dialogue and negotiation consultation so biru keta nata bundayle nge kumande alhamdulillah fom futata ko dangoto so ngalten to kalijayi nadiata alay kamben keta minna mbe futala ala nadiata alay. Thank you very much on behalf of Supreme Islamic Council executive members.
The meeting was represented by Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Information and the State Intelligence Service, and Office of the Inspector General of Police. The agreement was signed by the representative of the Ministry of Information, Office of the IGP, Ministry of Interior, the State Intelligence Service, the Coalition of Progressive Gambians, which was mediated and signed by the President of the Supreme Islamic Council and the Peace Network. IEC registers a new political party, PAP. Haddijatou Njie reports.
The Independent Electoral Commission has on Monday, 17 November, registered the country's 19th political party called the People's Alliance Party. The party is formed by Ibrahima Tabora Mane, an economist, son of the late Lower Nyomi chief Tabora Mane, whom in May 2021 announced his intention to challenge President Adama Barrow for the top job in the December polls. Accordingly, PAP has been duly registered in accordance with the country's electoral laws. You have fulfilled all the requirements and hereby registered as a bona fide political party in the Gambia, declared Chief Electoral Officer Sambure Njie. Aliou Momar Njie, the chairman of the IEC, congratulated Ibrahima Tabora Mane for being accepted. Following the successful registration of the party by the Independent Electoral Commission on Monday, the Secretary General and leader of the new People's Alliance Party, Ibrahima Tabora Mane, said that Gambia's security should be 100% controlled by its citizens at a press conference that was held on Wednesday, 9th November 2022.
And political stakeholders and political leaders. You know, I used to say before that I am not a politician. I don't know how I came into politics, but I never thought I would be involved in politics. But I came to learn to understand that there are politicians and there are politricians. Politicians and politricians. You know that there's a difference between the two. Politicians is Politician. Those are politicians. And then there are politricians. Poly in English, many. Like polygamy, you want to marry, you can marry several partners, several wives. Huh? Polyglot, meaning you have several tongues. You can speak several languages. Poly means many, right? Tricks, you all know tricks. Yeah. That is when you play games and magics. So there is a politician and there are politricians. That means with politricians, they have several tricks. Today they can tell you this, tomorrow they tell you that. They can play this game and that game, and we are genuine. We are not into fooling Gambians. We know that the country needs real change. We know that we need seriousness in our politics. We know that the country is a very backward country. The Gambia is a very poor country. And we need to bring Gambians together. You know, I've made mention of this several times, that for this country to develop, and for you guys to know, tomorrow, inshallah, we'll be having a press conference at 2 o'clock at Lakers. I invite all the media houses there. But just for you to know, there are 4 things that I've always mentioned. That Gambians need to be, 1, in control of their government. They need to be in control of their economy. They need to be in control of their security. And Gambians must be united.
Mane added that, just like the security, the Gambia's economic sector should be handled fully by its citizens. The Secretary General and leader of People's Alliance Party made these remarks following the successful registration of the party by the Independent Electoral Commission on Monday. Haddijatou Njie reporting for VOD.
The Gambia Revenue Authority (GRA) and West African Tax Administration Forum on Monday engaged 40 members of the National Assembly in a roundtable discussion on the role of parliamentarians in domestic revenue mobilization in the post-COVID era. The event, graced by CD Keita, Ministry of Finance, and top base of GRA and board members, was held at Senegambia Beach Hotel. The 2-day event, meant by GRA in collaboration with the United Nations Department for Economic and Social Welfare and the West African Tax Administration Forum, seek to boost the knowledge of the lawmakers on revenue mobilization. Welcoming the gathering, Yankuba Dabo, Commissioner General GRA, acknowledged the critical role of lawmakers in the actualization of government. Commissioner General Dabo reminded that as a statutory institution, the authority is required by law to submit its account and activities report to the National Assembly on an annual basis for scrutiny.
From the outside of the continent, it has become even more important as a continent to shift the focus to domestic revenue to provide a cushion for these frequent shocks.
Because as we look towards mobilizing domestic resources, especially now to help in recovery from the pandemic and other crises that have hit the world, it's important for us to consider what role everyone has to play in the tax policy, administration, and actually generation of revenue. And that is why it is important. And we are happy to have you here, parliamentarians, and I believe also some representatives from the Ministry of Finance, for us to really be able to have dialogues.
GRA boss indicated that as part of their aspiration to expand the tax base and increase domestic revenue, but this cannot be achieved without engaging critical stakeholders. Senegal reduced price of basic commodities, rent. The Senegalese government has taken a bold step of reducing the prices of some basic essential commodities, including foodstuffs as well as property rental in the country. Now let's look at the news across our borders. Zimbabwe and Uganda have launched their first home-ground satellite into space yesterday aboard a NASA rocket. Zimbabwe's satellite, named ZimSat-1, was designed and assembled by 3 of the country's scientists who were supported and trained in Japan. Ugandan satellite, the Pearl Africa Satellite 1, was also built by 3 of its own aerospace engineers and hoped that it will be able to set up its own command station to manage it. Once in orbit, the 2 satellites will collect images to help support research into weather forecasting, as well as monitoring border security and disaster prevention for their countries. But for Zimbabweans facing tough economic times, the launch was not without controversy and has provoked strong reactions on social media. The cost of the project was not disclosed. Zimbabwe has been in a deep economic crisis for the past 2 decades and remains under international sanctions. In September, the IMF announced that growth forecasts would still down due to a drop in agriculture production. The Nairobi court has ordered striking Kenyan Airways pilots to return to work by Wednesday morning after the days-long walkout forced dozens of flight cancellation and left thousands of passengers stranded. The Kenya Airline Pilots Association launched the strike at Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on Saturday, defying a court order issued last week against the industrial action. Justice Anna on Tuesday ordered the Kenya Airways pilots to resume their duties as pilots by 6 a.m. on 9th November 2022 unconditionally. The walkout has exacerbated the woes facing the troubled national carriers, which has been running loss for years despite the government pumping in millions of dollars to keep it afloat. There was no immediate response from Qatar to the court order, which came as the airline announced that most of its flights has been cancelled due to the strike. The carriers on Monday announced that it was ending its recognition of the union and withdrawing from their collective bargaining deals, accusing CALPA of exposing the airline to irreparable damage. Senegal striker Sadio Mane suffered injury. Haddijatou Njie reports.
Senegalese striker Sadio Mane suffered an injury on Tuesday, just 12 days before Senegal's opening World Cup match in Qatar. Senegal is facing a tough blow just 11 days before the World Cup. Striker Sadio Mane had to be substituted in 20 minutes of the match between Bayern and Wenden and could miss the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, according to French media outlet L'Equipe. The Senegal star is suffering from a hamstring injury and is expected to be out of a number of weeks. His absence would be a huge blow for coach Aliou Cissé, who would be forced to modify a list of players he had practically finalized before traveling to Qatar. November 14 is the deadline of the 32 national team to send their call-ups for FIFA. So far, neither Bayern nor Senegalese national team have made Mane's injury or his withdrawal from the World Cup official. He received a blow on top of the shin. This is an uncomfortable place. It needs to be x-rayed to clarify, were the words of coach Julien at the post-match press conference. Senegal will open their World Cup campaign on November 21st on the Netherlands in Group 1, which is completed by host Qatar.
The President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, criticized international funders for making it difficult for poorer nations to access aid to fight climate change, according to a UN-backed report released Tuesday. Developing countries and emerging economical need investment well beyond $2 trillion annually by 2030. Speaking at the COP27 summit on Tuesday, Cyril Ramaphosa asked for a clearer roadmap. Also on Tuesday, security had to escort Egyptian pro-government lawmaker Anne Darwish after he disrupted a press conference led by the sister of the jailed British Egyptian activist, currently on hunger strike. Now let's look at the international news. The UK government has paid out for the deaths of at least 4 times more Afghan children than it has previously admitted. Compensation payments have been issued for 64 children rather than the 16 publicly acknowledged. All were killed in fighting involving UK force between 2006 and 2014. The new figures come from Freedom of Information requests made by the Charity Action on Armed Violence. Airstrikers and being caught in crossfire were amongst the most common cause of death that were listed. AOAV believes the numbers of recorded civilian deaths caused by British force is likely to be an underestimate. Of those deaths that have been recorded, the annual number of children killed could actually be as high as 135 because some of the fraternities are described in Ministry of Defense merely as sons and daughters, with ages and circumstances of death not always included. AOAV says it is possible some of those 135 were adults, but the likelihood of them having been under 18 is high because of the very young average age in Afghanistan. Most of the 881 fraternities claims made in the British were rejected, and only a quarter received compensation. Among those which were successful was one for 8 members of the same Afghan family, killed in a coalition airstrike on the village in the Nawar district of Kamal in May 2009. A man asked for compensation for the death of his nephew, his nephew's 2 wives, and their family's children. 10 years ago, when a 19-year-old Delhi woman was found gang raped and murdered in the fields of the neighboring state of Haryana, it was described as a rarest of rare case. Indians were shocked by news reports which detailed the brutality to which the teenager named Anamika in court documents, as her name could not be revealed under India's law, had been subjected. 3 men arrested for the crime were found guilty and given the death penalty by a trial court in 2014, and the Delhi High Court confirmed the sentence a few months later. But on Monday, in a stunning reversal, the Indian Supreme Court set the men free, saying that there was no cogent pleading on clear evidence that they had committed the crime. The 3-judge bench raised serious questions about the police investigation, criticized the Sessions Court for glaring lapses in the trial, and said the judge had acted like a passive umpire. The discussion has angered the victims' parents, shocked activists and lawyers, and led to outrage on social media in the country, where tens of thousands of rapes are reported every year. Princess Haddijatou has relinquished her royal duties to focus on her alternative medicine business with her fiancé, a self-styled shaman. The princess will keep her title, but is surrendering official duties to create a clear dividing line between her private and royal roles. Her fiancé, Derek, has promoted unfounded medical practices, including suggesting cancer is a choice. Princess Martha Louise is relinquishing her patron role as she and Mr. Derek seeks to distinguish between their activities and the royal house of Norway. The palace said in a statement, it added that King Harald V had decided she would keep her title. She has performed her duties with warmth, care, and deep commitment, the statement said. Despite the announcement, King Harald described Mr. Derek as a great guy and very fun to be with. In a separate statement, Princess Martha said she was aware of the importance of research-based knowledge, but that she believes alternative medicine can be an important supplement to help from the conventional medical establishment. She added that it is very important to distinguish between herself and a private person on the one hand and as a member of the royal family on the other. The Princess 51 has attracted controversy in Norway for decades for her involvement in alternative treatments, including starting a school that aims to help people get in touch with their angels. She has been accused of using her royal title for competitive gain. That's all we have for you today. Until we come your way again, I am Glorious Haddijatou Njie on the VOD Weekly News Recap. Good evening and thanks for watching.